the Scheveningen Sicilian, and the Naudorf Sicilian. What are some of the characteristics that differentiate these two openings? Well, in general, that question can be answered by examining the main lines of the variations. And depending on the plan that white chooses, sharp lines lead to concrete positions. For instance, if white chooses to advance the G pawn to G4 and on to G5, that could give black some problems, known as a type of bayonet attack by white. So the game starts off E4, C5, knight F3, D6, and after D6, white plays the pawn to D4, C takes D4, knight takes D4, knight F6, forcing white to defend the pawn on E4 with knight C3, and after knight C3, A6. Now, the two moves to look for are bishop G5 and bishop E2, depending on white's plan. Black will respond accordingly. Bishop E2. This is more positional, but black can play the pawn to E5, and after knight B3, bishop E7, white castles, black castles, and king H1. Now the move we're going to look at here is bishop to G5. If bishop to G5, then the move is E6 to cover the D5 square, since white has pressure on the knight on F6. Now white's choices are either queen F3 or pawn to F4. Now if queen F3, then H6. Bishop E3, queen C7, castle queen side. Knight B to D7, queen to G3, H5, H4, B5, A3, E5, knight B3, knight B6, bishop takes B6, queen takes B6, king B1. Now let's take a look at F4. Now pause the video and set this position up on your board. This is back to move 7 for white, and now the move is F4. Now after the move F4, black has several choices. Bishop E7, queen B6, queen to C7, B5, knight B to D7, and knight C6. The Naudorf Sicilian Argentine variation. The attack of the white knight. This segment of the video features question and answer. The white knight will attack the enemy king. Black will attempt to refute the attack. Will black survive? White's plan is simple. Play the pawn to f4 in hopes of trading that pawn off so that the f file will become open. And after developing the bishop on f1, this will make it possible to swing a rook over to f1. This also involves a potential knight sacrifice on e6. Knight takes e6. The queen will continue to play along the d1 to h5 diagonal. Black's pieces are suddenly active, while white's advantage in space continues to grow. If black fails to create a target in the enemy camp, his pieces will be pushed back and his active piece strategy will fail. By playing the bishop to g3, white allows black to capture the pawn on g5 with the bishop. Bishop takes g5. Now the c1 to h6 diagonal is stopping white from castling on that side of the board.
End of battle 1. Black survives.
In the last game, white played the bishop to g3. Here, the knight throws itself into the fire by sacrificing itself in e6.
The king steps over to the f file to get out of check, and now the bishop throws itself into the fire by sacrificing itself on d5.
Now what remains is the possibility of rook f1. Will black survive?
White's attack is strong. What can I do?
I am the king's advisor. White's pieces have forced their way into black's territory. To combat white, black can try rook h7, king to g7, or knight e5.
Although black continues to accept piece sacrifices made by white, yet it is white who controls the game. This shows us that material value isn't a good way to tell what's going on. Piece activity often takes precedence over point count.
Nope.
Here you will see why the king stepped to h2 to avoid any possibilities of check. And from this point on, the end game will tell. Okay, pause the video and set up your board. Set up the position you see in front of you.
They making dollars, blow minds full time like a Rhodes Scholar. Suit up, armor like a Mo Rider. Glowed up, I drop jaws, make it say
While black tries to untangle his pieces and defend the king, white continues to apply more pressure.
Strawberry on my lips and sugar fingertips. I can feel the beat running through the speakers. Blue skies, blue waves, every day's a good day. Lazy Sunday afternoon, I'ma take my day off too. Ooh, got me so in love with the summer days. Ooh, got me feeling dizzy from the summer haze. 'Cause we got the sunshine by the poolside. Such a fun time living for the hot life. Bring the right vibes and the tan line. Keep a free mind, yeah. 'Cause we got the sunshine by the poolside. Such a fun time living for the hot life. Bring the right vibes and the tan lines. Keep a free mind, yeah. Rose color on my cheeks.
Although White's knight appears to be oddly placed on D1, turns out to be very strong.